All right, I'm meeting with Shawn. Uh, and Shawn, you've been with me for, let me see, since July 14th.
Yeah, about six
And
months, I think, right?
is that, well, July, August, September, October, November, going on 5 months.
5 months.
Yeah, yeah. So what made you decide to call me and how did you find me again?
I found you because I tried to learn and study about Spinoza, and I think I may have found you on a Spinoza forum online.
Oh,
And
that's right.
researching Spinoza, I found your website, and I knew about it, never contacted it, but I wanted to learn how to study Spinoza because I realized he had some truth, but I just couldn't crack it. And something told me, like, I had this feeling that there was something unique about what you had to offer and wanted to investigate that.
Okay, and so that sounds great. And now you have all the materials, the books that I recommend,
Yeah.
and there are three of them. The ethics, and let's
Yeah.
look see what you have.
Yes, we have the L's edition of the
Elvis, yeah.
ethics, the
Oh
Ellis.
yes, I see that. And
The
what
L.
else?
We have your teacher's book, How to Solve Life's Problem,
Yes.
and we have In Search of the Miraculous
Okay,
by
excellent.
Opensky.
Ospensky, yes. Now
Opensky.
I'm going to ask you a question regarding Ospensky. Do you remember on page 65 in the book, um, he talks about the difference between knowledge and being. Do you remember what's he implying? That there's a difference between knowledge and being, and why was that so significant? And it
I
is.
Yeah, I think it was significant because in the West, we have doctors and lawyers and celebrities and people that are praised as very knowledgeable, but in their personality, they may be angry, revenge driven, violent, and we can say that their knowledge doesn't really reflect their core being. So there's
Yes,
this true distinction between your being, your character, what makes up all your emotions and desires versus the superficial intellectual knowledge that may not reflect that character.
very good. So the individual might be very successful in his expertise. He
Right.
might be a musician. He might be a classical musician, very, very excellent. He might be an award winner in his studies of physics,
Right.
Nobel Peace Prize winner. He might be a great defense lawyer,
Right.
or entrepreneur like Elon Musk,
You are not right.
or also what is his other name? There is Microsoft,
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Right.
There are many like him, and I was thinking about this. There are these individuals who are highly intellectual,
Right.
yet that intellectual power. A good example is an engineer. Most engineers are mostly, and they're good with numbers and mathematics and physics and mechanics. And however, in social gatherings, they have a problem.
Right.
They have such a fear of social interaction. Do you know why?
Naturally introverted.
Naturally introverted. And what does that mean?
It means that they're afraid of interacting with people, so they prefer to be alone.
Well, why would they be afraid of interacting?
Afraid of being rejected,
All
of
right.
pain.
Okay, that's exactly right. However, the intellectual, as Gurdjieff says, there are three centers, and there are more, but the three concepts I focus on that relate to the work that we're doing. The One of them is the intellectual center, the emotional center, and the physical center. Yeah. Now, this we all have all three.
Yeah.
Uh, However, one is dominant, and engineer types, uh, science types, doctor types focus on their intellectual powers, abilities. And a certain number of people in society are intellectual. I think there's a greater number of people who are in the emotional center and also in the physical. Yeah. The physical people who are focused on their focus, physical center is dominant, is they're laborers.
Right.
And the individual who focuses on emotionals could be laborers, but also factory workers, but also they might be entrepreneurs to a certain degree.
Right.
And I was that type of a person. I was more an emotional person. My intellect was very weak. But an emotional person, a person loves to talk and interact with people, love to laugh. And like my brother, he no longer lives. I mean, he died about a year ago, but he was about 6 years older than I am. And he was the life of the party. He would walk in a room and it could be a quiet, uncomfortable setting, people not really engaged. He could walk in a room and change everything.
Light up the room, as they say.
Light up the room, yeah, with his emotions. Hello, everybody. He talks real loud and grabs and hugs people. And but the engineer type, because he's focused so on his intellect, is afraid of emotions.
Right.
He's so afraid of emotions that he feels that an emotion, he feels like he's out of control. And this is a problem with one of my other students. He's made great progress because he gave me an example when he was a boy going to a new school, a new middle school, and his fear, he felt anxiety about not having any friends.
I can understand that.
Yeah, you can relate to that.
Yeah.
Okay, and many people can.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was going to school, I was so uncomfortable being in a new school, and I was in the cafeteria sitting by myself, so ashamed, so alone.
Wow.
And but eventually I met friends and I made friends.
That's good.
But this individual, my student, he saw someone that he recognized from a previous school. And he went up to him and he said, "Hi, Johnny, remember me?" And Johnny was talking to some other boys and Johnny ignored him. And he was devastated.
That's cold.
Yeah. And he felt this horrible feeling. And the only way that he got rid of it, he suppressed, he had the ability to suppress his feelings and remain and go into his intellect and to learn how to dismiss those feelings. And this is what intellectuals do, is they do not want to feel because, again, they feel out of control. And it's very difficult for them to, say, find a dating partner because their communication, they don't know how. They're afraid. They just don't have that interaction, social activity, small talk. They don't know how to small talk. How's the car? How's the children? Vacations, or going to a play or going to a concert. Small talk, or the food we eat, things like this. General conversations. And they love to talk to other engineers or scientists or doctors, talk to doctors, lawyers talk to lawyers. But the small talk is painful.
Yeah.
All right. So the individual lives in this state of intellectual power, but fear of their emotions. So society adores, honors individuals with intellectual powers. They really honor these people. And that's why you talk about the being. You're so right about the being of the individual. The being of the individual is the character. What else? You said character. What else do you say about the being of the individual?
It's your thoughts, it's your hopes, it's your desires.
Everything.
It includes everything about
includes the intellectual powers.
Yeah,
that's the whole being. So our intellectual center, our emotional center, our physical center are all expresses our being.
Right. Can we say this, that your being always encompasses your knowledge, but your knowledge doesn't always reflect or encompass your being?
I think that's very good. I have to reflect upon that. That's I think that is good. Yeah, your knowledge doesn't reflect your being is exactly
Right.
correct.
But your being always includes your emotions and your knowledge and
Yeah,
your
right. And so the idea, so Gurdjieff says this, that uh, uh, knowledge, there's a difference between knowledge and being. People appreciate knowledge, but they don't appreciate being. They don't even know what it is.
right.
And
Off
so,
the radar.
what's that? Off the radar.
Yeah.
So Spinoza, Gurdjieff talks about on page 66 what the being of the individual is, and exactly what you said. But one thing that Spinoza, Gurdjieff talks about is that the problem is that to change being, uh, we can't just willfully change being. How do we change being?
We have to awaken it by someone who already has being.
Yes,
Someone with being, we have to know someone with being to teach us, because if we don't have it, we would never know. We're lost. We're ignorant.
yes. So he talks about the idea that the problem is to gain knowledge. How can a sleepy man gain knowledge?
Right.
How can a sleepy man sleeping? But what? See, he doesn't. Gurdjieff. I find I have Gurdjieff is the beginning of the work that I do. He has great insights about human nature. I do not reflect, I do not go into the enneagrams or the octaves or the planets or the dancing. To me, that is not relevant to what I do.
Right.
I focus on the psychology of human nature, his spiritual nature, his psychology, and his emotional nature. And I'm not so concerned about the physical nature, but only how you are affected by the events of life. And so, so to change being, there is a method. And this I learned from my teacher, a method to awaken the intelligence. And that's why, as you brought out, my teacher's book is so important. And and I'm going to, interesting for those who are listening, and some of my students will listen to this and learn from it, because everything, there's something, one thing about having a video meeting, there's not only audio, but there's visual. And that has a greater impact.
Yeah.
There's more of an impression. And that's why when people go to concerts, it's a whole different feeling, a whole different reality
Yeah.
than just listening to music, which is nice.
Right.
But on chapter 42, it says this: one of the basic keys to inner freedom, the idea of inner freedom. This is on chapter 42, page 84. Is explained in Spinoza. When we are able to come to a clear idea of any passion, a passion is an emotion, such as anger, fear, envy, greed, ambition, and so on. The passion ceases. So the idea, excuse me, how can we come to a clear idea? And that is part of the work. The work is to learn what is an emotion, what is pain, what is desire, what is hate, and what is anger, and hope and fear and ambition. So there are 8 emotions that we focus on, that relate, that we experience every day, several times a day. And we want to acknowledge, observe, and this is what the title of the essay, objective self-observation of our emotions. Objective. And how to become objective, how to begin to see without judgment. And that is the key. An important part of this chapter, he says also, writing what you observe is a highly successful aid in self-observation, because this activates the mind. So the idea of activating the mind is an awakened state. How to awaken the mind. And this is so important. How do we do that? And this is the problem. We must discern the difference between our memory that we rely on and our awakened state. There's such a difference because a lot of times we try to solve problems, difficulties, challenges in life with old memory. Sometimes we're successful at it. But however, to know oneself, how we are affected by our parent, our sibling, or the job, or a girlfriend, or a relationship, we are affected several times a day. And we're going to respond. And that's what we want to look at how we respond to these effects. Not too much focus on what they do and what their motivations are, but to see how we are affected with this this event. It could be parking your car and someone, just before you enter the parking spot, as you waited for someone to leave that spot, someone goes in and takes that spot. You already in your mind own that spot because you're waiting there longer than the other individual. And however, you're going to feel pain, hate, and anger. And the goal is to learn about these emotions, how to study them, and to surrender to the feelings we have, and to acknowledge how to do this work. So I think we've been doing this, let me see how many minutes we have. Let me see, I think we've got at least 15 to 20 minutes, that's good. So anything you want to add before we say goodbye?
I want to say that I'm very appreciative to have this opportunity to know you, to do this work. In the 5 months that I've done this, there's been more growth in this last 5 months than I think I've had in almost a decade since music school, when I went through a big growth musically. So I'm just really fortunate to feel like I'm embracing a new phase of life and integrating my being, not just getting lost in knowledge. So
Thank you very much for that, Shawn. And I'll see you next week. We'll go over the time. Let me stop this. Okay, I'm going to stop this recording, and I'm going to end our meeting. But I'll give you a time, and if it's okay.
Oh yeah, send it in the WhatsApp.
Okay, great, excellent. Yeah. I'll do that. All right, Shawn. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
See you next week.
Good job.